You recognize this technique?
Hi guys, it's KarboBalloon, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Rather than take a game and focus on it as a whole, I'm going to take an aspect of it and focus on that instead. And today I'm going to look at Monster Hunter and see how it handles grinding. I always heard Monster Hunter entailed a lot of grinding, but the way it was described to me made it sound like it handled grinding reasonably well. I got Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate because of this, and because it looked really awesome. Before I get into the specifics of grinding in Monster Hunter, I'm going to go over a few of the game's mechanics since you might not know the first thing about it. This isn't going to be a comprehensive overview, but rather information that will help with understanding how the game deals with grinding. The structure of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is relatively simple. You have the towns and the mission areas. In the towns, you can craft armor and weapons, buy supplies, grab quests, eat, and engage in a slew of other smaller mechanics. The main purpose of towns is to act as a hub between quests and prepare for your next hunt. The guild hall is where you get your different quests for hunts. The guild hall quests come in many varieties, ranging from murdering a few poor defenseless monsters, to gathering herbs, to fighting giant dragons that are just big old meanies.
Happy feet, wombo combo! That ain't Falco! That ain't Falco! Oh! Oh!
Now all these quests are collected into ranks. You start at Hunter rank 1 and work all the way to rank 10. Ranks 1 through 3 count as low rank, high rank is 4 through 7, and G rank is 8 through 10. Each jump between rank sets, such as low rank to high rank, has large changes in monster difficulty, and you start fighting alternate versions of lower rank monsters. Now to rank up, you need to complete all key quests in each rank and then complete the urgent quest. For example, in rank 1, you have to complete the 4 key quests, then the urgent quests to rank up to rank 2. The key quests are usually capturing or killing a monster. The other quests in each rank are generally resource gathering quests or kill a certain amount of smaller monsters. It's pretty simple. Do quests and rank up. Now to actually be able to take on more challenging monsters, you're going to have to become strong enough. And to get strong, you need to kill monsters and gather materials. Monster Hunter has no leveling system, so your gear dictates how good your stats are. Armor usually requires parts from monsters you have killed, with each large monster having an armor set based off their respective monster. To get these armor sets, you have to kill a monster to get its parts from both carving them off their body and getting them as quest rewards. Some sets may require pieces from related smaller monsters, as well as different resources from gathering. Armor has a defensive stat, which is pretty self-explanatory, as well as skills that when a full armor set is worn, have specific effects such as attack bonuses or quicker gathering. Typically, you build full sets rather than throw a bunch of pieces together. Higher ranked versions of each armor set exist, with the main difference being a higher armor value. Weapons are very similar, except not each weapon type has a weapon made for each monster. Rather, each weapon type has a different weapon for each element. Weapons can be upgraded to stronger versions instead of crafted, and may branch off into different elemental versions. An example of this is the Deer Lutimus can either upgrade through materials to the Deer Lutima or the Axeline Blade, each with their own differences. This may require you to craft a weaker version of a weapon to gain the other versions of said weapon. The encounters in Monster Hunter require a good deal of planning. After selecting a quest, the player departs to the quest location. In low rank, all players start at the camp and are given some supplies at the beginning, such as a map, rations, and some potions. On high rank quests, the players are dispersed randomly throughout the area. Each area is broken up into numbered zones. The game does not tell you which zone the monster starts in, nor does the monster show up on the map unless marked with a paintball. Combat is very technical. Each weapon has its strengths, weaknesses, and unique mechanics that can take a while to get the specifics down. The moves themselves are fairly linear, often going in a straight line, where once you start the combo, you are generally locked into that direction. That means every hit has to be deliberately made, since you don't want to be locked into an attack when the monster plans to defend itself. The successful takedown of harder monsters requires careful positioning and timing to get the attacks off before getting hit. Monsters have their own set of attacks, weaknesses, tells, and plenty of other complexities. Everything about the monster is told visually for them to figure out. Monsters also will retreat to certain zones, with one of them being their sleeping spot. There's a lot to each encounter, but I will go to that in the next section. Now that we got a look at some of the mechanics, we can see how Monster Hunter handles grinding. We know that in order to progress our character, we need to craft different armor sets and build different weapons. To get these, the game requires you to kill the same monster over and over again in order to get all the materials. Monster Hunter explicitly sets up that grinding is necessary because it straight up shows you that you need to kill the same monster over and over again to progress. Say for example, I want to make this radical looking Gormagala armor. I need a wide array of different materials, including the Gormagala plate, which has a relatively low drop rate. Depending on luck, I may have to fight it 5 to 7 times. Well, grinding is bad, right? Who wants to fight the same thing over and over again? In normal circumstances, that may be true. In most games, the repetition of action numerous times becomes tiresome quickly. In JRPGs, the nature of grinding is much different. It is primarily used as a tool to slow player progress by making them stop and gain a certain level before they can move on. It doesn't work because the player gains nothing from each repeated action other than the increase in level and requires no thought. Let's say, for example, in Final Fantasy, this dungeon is giving me a tough time, so I have to spend an hour upgrading my heroes by killing monsters for gold and leveling them up. But doing so requires me to fight the same mob over and over again until I get what I need. The thing that makes each encounter easier is my increase in level, and not my increase of knowledge. They don't approach grinding in a way that makes it interesting to the player, thus it falls flat. As a tool of Monster Hunter, it's used much more elegantly. So you're gonna get this KarboBalloon armor, and to do so, you're gonna have to fight him a bunch. The first fight, you're not really gonna know what to expect. You approach it cautiously, get an idea of its behavior, and fight it to the best of your ability with the limited knowledge you know. You start with nothing, so it's expected that you might fail the first time or get through by the skin of your teeth. If you fail, you get no reward, and thus another fight is added to the number of times you have to fight the same monster. If you win, you get some of your rewards, but usually not enough to build a piece of armor. However, the second time you encounter the monster, you have already gained something important, and that is some knowledge of the monster's behavior and abilities. This information is more important than any sort of character progression you can make in the game. Eventually, you're gonna know that when the KarboBalloon hovers for a bit, he's gonna try and get you with a sick dive bomb, or when he cocks his head back, he's gonna shoot some explosive breath. With each encounter, you're going to know the monster better and better. You're going to know when it's weak, when it's about to enrage, when it's exhausted, when it can be captured. You will know when to attack and when not to, and you're going to know when it's close to dying. And by the time you've gotten all the pieces for the armor set, you're going to have the fight down like clockwork. This is expanded upon when you fight the higher ranked versions of each monster. You can use the knowledge base of when you fought the monster before to help you take down its alternate version. The alternate versions will have their own attacks thrown in on top of dealing way more damage. The designers built upon this knowledge by filling the key quests of the first couple high ranks with alternate versions of low rank monsters rather than new monsters. If you immediately jumped into the new monsters that did tons of damage, the significant jump in challenge would lead to frustration. Instead, you can use your knowledge of the low-rank encounters to kill their high-rank counterparts for their armor sets. The key here is learning the fight as a process. It doesn't start out as thoughtless like in the other games. It takes time because everything is eventually going to be mastered, so make it count. Monster Hunter is essentially a series of boss battles, but Monster Hunter's use of grinding allows the designers to approach them differently. Let's look at a conventional boss battle like Goma from Wind Waker. Goma follows a pretty standard formula we see a lot. Play earners fight, boss demonstrates pattern and/or the environmental information is conveyed, player recognizes the information, player exploits information, and player repeats the process until the boss is dead. Let's apply this to Goma. The player walks into the boss room, and after a short scene, the player takes in the environmental information, such as the ledges and the tail hanging from the ceiling. Next, the player understands that there has to be a way up there, and the tail is just dangling. The pieces come together, and the player uses the rope to swing from the tail, causing the dirt to fall on Goma's head. This is repeated 3 times until his armor is cracked and the player can deal direct damage. It is important to note that Zelda and the other games who use this formula are specifically designing these boss battles to be played till beaten once. The first few bits should be conveyed to the player by the designer in the first attempt, with the execution being the spot where the player could potentially get stuck. Nothing is more frustrating than constantly losing a boss battle because the player does not know what to do. If you added grinding without changing the formula, then this would not work. This is an advantage of grinding. Without the constraint of a one-and-done situation, it gives the designers more flexibility when designing a boss battle. If you can expect to have the players keep replaying the battle, then you can design the battle more deeply with more complex behaviors and mechanics that don't have to be spelled out. You don't have to rely on a set pattern or solution to the fight, rather the player can step back and feel out all the complexities. You give them the information over multiple attempts, allowing them over time to figure out the best way to take down the boss. It doesn't get boring quickly because they are constantly coming across new information, and even after beating it once, it is still satisfying to continually beat the monster quicker and easier. It creates a nice satisfaction over time curve that ends with the player getting the reward around the same time they have mastered the battle. You don't get that with other types of bosses, and that isn't a bad thing. It's just how those fights fit into their games. In the end, grinding allows for a multifaceted and deeper fight because the designers are not burdened with revealing all their information from the start. Monster Hunter is definitely a game that plays to the strengths of grinding. It shows that when properly handled, a developer can design the boss battles in a way that make them more interesting than the conventional fight. This, coupled with the strategic and intense fights, makes grinding feel less like a chore and more like something I actually seek. Monster Hunter highlights the advantages of grinding and shows that it's not just a dirty word. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like this video. I've got other content on my channel, and I've got other ideas that I'll be coming out with soon, hopefully. That was my mug.